Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to our channel and thanks for logging on. Before you start your summer, you have to consider the Calibre de Cartier diver, perhaps the least understood and most often overlooked watch in the luxury dive class. You can see this one resplendent in blue and rose gold on our website. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you enjoy these videos, and please click on the card in the upper right hand corner of the screen at any time during this video to see our full sales listing for this watch with additional accessories included in the sale, high resolution images for your desktop, and naturally complete pricing details for this outstanding Calibre de Cartier diver in rose gold. Now the watch you see here was part of a iteration that debuted at SIHH 2016. The original Calibre de Cartier, the in-house Calibre Cartier watch, came out in 2010, and then in 2014 we first saw the diver. This represents the Cartier diver coming of age, a perfect combination of materials, substance, and character. This is what Louis Cartier would have designed if he designed a modern dive watch. Now, it fits easily on the wrist, though 42 millimeters in diameter. It's a bit of an ergonomic miracle, and that's because, first, the lug-to-lug span is relatively compact at 48 millimeters. It's also wonderfully slim. The timepiece, only 11 millimeters thick, will slide underneath any cuff. It's a full 1.5 millimeters thinner, for example, than a Submariner. This is a watch designed to be worn all the time. You'll also note, and this is where the ergonomic miracle comes into play, Cartier realized that in order to move both sides of the strap without constraint and still create this perfectly integrated, all-of-a-piece, no daylight look that you see here, again, I mean no daylight visible between case and strap, there would have to be some sort of a recess or a garage built into the flank of the case so the strap could move unimpeded. And that's exactly what Cartier did. They carved out a portion in the shape and size of the strap ends so that the case allows the strap to be drilled well inboard of the outside of the lugs. You'll note you can pull the strap straight down, and then you'll note 48 millimeters lug to lug, maybe 46 millimeters from the drilling of the strap to drilling of strap. Therefore, I believe you could wear this watch, though 42 millimeters, on a wrist as small as 13.5 centimeters in circumference. It fits that well. Also, Cartier realizing that a big watch should cradle a wrist rather than fighting it, so you have the curvature of the lugs perfectly tapered to wrap around your forearm. And I'll show you that in practice because it really is genius and it's perfectly executed. This and the recess for the strap makes the Cartier diver one of the most comfortable dive watches I've ever experienced. And with a watch that had an original retail price of $27,000, you would want to wear it full time given your investment, and Cartier allows you to do that. The strap is a wonderful piece as well. It's a natural vulcanized rubber, but with none of the stiffness. It has a pliancy to it that is wonderfully refreshing, as it's thick cut and substantial but comfortable on the wrist and willing to bend around your wrist to curve and caress. You'll also note Cartier sweated the details on this buckle. Although it's a pin buckle, you'll note how it perfectly accepts the strap within its interior to lower its profile. There's actually a recess into which the strap slots. And then, in addition to the satin finish of the rose gold and the Cartier signature, you can see there are some hairline bevels about its periphery. Nicely executed, thoughtfully detailed, and exquisitely designed. The case is relatively simple, but like everything else, nicely done with a few exclamation marks to punctuate the composition. The case band is simple with the satin finish, and you'll note the watch is principally satin finished with only a few polished highlights. Notice the screws within the lugs. Note the junction between the lugs and the case band create a little bit of a cleft in definition. Note the polish on the underside of the bezel, contrasting beautifully with an accenting almost like jewelry against the blue of the bezel and the satin finish of the case. Note the hairline bevel on the shoulders of the lugs. Cartier, of course, perhaps still more jeweler than watchmaker, showing its pedigree in design. You'll also note that the screw-fixed crown guards are beautiful, and the strong geometries of the crown beautifully contrasting with the round form of the cabochon. The bezel is ceramic. Let's get that out. because there's also an ADLC Cartier diver, that is the black bezel. The black bezels are all amorphous diamond-like carbon. The blue is ceramic, and thus you have the scratch resistance of ceramic, effectively as scratch resistant as a sapphire crystal. Now, lines and style do matter. What is ceramic and material science without beauty? And you can see there's a slightly dished profile, a sort of concave profile from the outside of the bezel down to the crystal, and everything is easy to view. You can roll the bezel around, line it up with the minute hand. Now you've got an impromptu 0 to 60 minute timer, which I happen to adore, as I find chronographs too difficult to read at a glance, and dive bezels almost perfect, and not just for diving, for anything. Anytime you've got 60-minute intervals that need to be measured, I recommend a dive bezel. The action of the bezel is very refined. I would compare it to, for example, the Blancpain 50 Fathoms and the top-of-the-line Grand Seiko divers, in that it's not sloppy, it lacks no precision, but it doesn't sound like a Gatling gun, and it doesn't feel like I'm dragging a chain over broken tarmac. It feels beautifully tuned and luxurious. I would say it almost has a slight creaminess to it that I absolutely adore. And yes, the triangle is luminescent, so the pearl is lumed. And the watch, in fact, is an ISO 6425 compliant diver. So everything you need to have a dive watch, this watch has. Right down to the screw-down crown, the screwed-in case back, constant seconds indicator, unidirectional bezel, 300-meter water resistance. It's all here. The dial is a spectacular one at night. More on that in a moment. Now you see constant seconds in an unusual for a diver small seconds layout. Nevertheless, it is easy to read at night. It's probably the easiest part of the watch to read, and you're going to see why. Beautiful rose gold frame with an index for the date. The reason a triple date is used is because, for example, this is designed to be your all-the-time watch, so presumably sometime, landlubbers, you'll be looking at your watch, and though it's a diver, you want to know the date. And because it has a triple aperture, you can see the succeeding and the preceding date. There will be no difficulty discerning what date it is. So the watch features beautiful rose gold broadsword style hands with plenty of luminescent material, and a dial base that is a metallic blue. It's a handsome muted blue. It reacts dramatically in light, and I would say it's a thoughtful complement to the gloss blue of the bezel. You'll also note that there is a slight distinction between the hour track and the center dial, each one on a slightly different cut and texture of the dial base. Turn the watch over, not much to see, but I can tell you what's underneath. It's Cartier manufactured Calibre 1904. Again, we first saw it on the Calibre de Cartier in 2010. 27 joules, automatic winding, 48-hour power reserve. It has Edachron, so it can be very precisely regulated. It features both a quick set for the date and hacking or stop seconds for synchronization. And it features twin mainspring barrels, which is a refinement that more watches should exhibit. Though the watch's 48-hour power reserve is only slightly more than the industry average of about 38 to 42, it's the even torque release that the twin barrel arrangement gives you. Thus, the watch keeps very consistent time from full wind to minimum wind, and that's the real benefit of the 48-hour power reserve, courtesy of twin mainspring barrels. Consistency. Smooth automatic winding action and a refined experience on the wrist. This is a timepiece that needs to be considered as a smart alternative pre-owned to the likes of an Hublot Big Bang or an Audemars Piguet Royal Oak offshore diver. This is a watch you even need to consider against solid gold Rolex sports watches like a full gold Submariner or GMT. The watch has that kind of presence, peerless ergonomics, I may as well call it what it is, best in the business from an ergonomic standpoint, and a distinctive aesthetic that is unmistakably Cartier. You can see this watch and decide for yourself on our website. And we are back with the Cartier Calibre de Cartier diver. Now rose gold with blue accents, but it glows gloriously green by night. You can see the luminescent pearl of the bezel, the spectacular aesthetic of that sub-seconds dial. That's why I have no problem with sub-seconds on a dive style watch, as long as it's that visible and prominent. Stylized Roman numeral 12, index at each hour, and of course you can easily line up the luminescent triangle of the bezel, a properly large luminescent accent on a bezel, I may add, with the minute hand. See it and make it yours on our website.